Hi guys, so I'm absolutely delighted to be joined today by Mr. Steve Sims.
How you doing?
We are at the Traffic and Conversion Show, and he's kindly offered to have a quick chat so that we can talk about business, as we all do. Entrepreneurial learning is what we're all about. But I wanted to find out a little bit more about how he started in business, because he's got a fascinating story. But let's just kick things off, Steve. For those of you that don't know, what do you do?
Wow, what do I do? Well, there's two answers to that. What I did that I became well known for, and what I do now. What I did was I was the Mr. Fix-It for very, very powerful people. So, you know, I've worked with everyone from Richard Branson to Elon Musk to the Vatican. And people would contact me to get these amazing things like getting married in the Vatican, or closing down a museum in Florence, or driving a Formula One car, playing drums with Guns N' Roses. That's what I did. And then I wrote my first book called Blue Fishing, not expecting it to take off. And it did. Big surprise to us all. And now I travel the planet coaching, training and teaching on how to achieve what other people think is either ridiculous or impossible goals. And that's basically what I do now.
I was looking, I think it was your Instagram profile, and when it's got the sort of job title, it says disruptor.
Disruptor, yeah. I think all entrepreneurs, we disrupt things, and predominantly we disrupt ourselves.
Yeah.
Because the whole planet's going, go to school, go to college, get a job, and we're entrepreneurs where we design our own movement. So I always like to think of entrepreneurs as creative disruptors.
Love it, and that's hopefully the audience, what you're thinking about. So the thing I wanted to touch on today was, I've heard your origin story, but I'd love you to share it with the audience, because a lot of the people that are watching this, they could have been thinking about starting a business for a while, and they're trapped in that sort of day-to-day where they've probably got the mortgage, they've got kids to support, they've got a job, you know, and they love the idea of running their own business, but it's a difficult thing to do. And I was caught in that trap myself. I wanted to be an entrepreneur since I was a young lad, but I never pulled the trigger till I was 29.
Right.
So how did that come around for you?
It came around by the fact that I realised I didn't fit in. I was a bricklayer, my dad was a bricklayer, you know, his brother was a bricklayer. We were a bricklaying family. But I just felt that it wasn't for me. You know, I was working hard but not making a lot of money. And of course this was back in the 80s, so we didn't have Instagram to show us how inadequate our life was. But I just knew there was something. And I remember actually going up to my granddad when I was a kid, and I said, because he was in his 80s, you know.
Wow.
Yeah, ridiculous. Well, in those days you didn't save for retirement, so when you stopped working, you stopped earning. And he was an old fella on this building site, not happy. And I remember saying to him, did you ever think you'd be doing this at this age? And in hindsight, that's a pretty rude question. But he didn't even look at me. He actually said, if you don't quit today, you'll be me tomorrow. And I realised that a lot of people, they don't, as they say, pull the trigger or get out of the gate or take the leap. The danger is actually not doing anything, because every time you take a leap, you become educated. And I went off to get loads of different jobs to try and learn what affluent people did. You know, how come they had money and I didn't? You know, I didn't mind working hard, but how come they had it? You know, so I went out to try and surround myself with them, and in the education, learn a ton of jobs that I was not qualified to do or shouldn't be anywhere near. And while trying to do that, I kind of realised that the scary thing wasn't in actually taking the chance, it was actually standing still. So I'm a great believer that, you know, your education comes from making mistakes. So fail fast, fail often. But that's easier said than done. When you've got kids and a mortgage and liabilities, and you're romanticizing entrepreneurship, that's a dangerous territory. Because I don't know of an entrepreneur that hasn't been screwed, broke, lied to, ripped off, laughed at. And if there's an entrepreneur that hasn't happened to, well, it's just a matter of time, you know. My son's grown up, Henry, seeing us broke, seeing us losing things, seeing us having a, hock. 1 minute you're buying expensive watches, 6 months later you're bloody hocking them because all the money's dried up. Yeah. So, there is an ebb and flow until you find your vein.
Yeah.
But during those early stages, it can be rocky. So, romanticising being an entrepreneur, stupid. Stop that. It is tough, and it's not for everyone, and it sure as shit ain't easy. But when you've got the liabilities, you have to tread carefully and you have to move with purpose. And the beautiful thing about today is you can go to work and have a side business. You can try things. It's really easy today to not only start a business, but to actually find out if there's a market. All you've got to do is go on your Facebook page and go, hey, does anyone else have a problem with cat hair? I've got this device. Find out if there's a market for what you've got. So you can actually dabble. And unlike me and you, we're both older than Google. So, we can all join groups now where we can converse with each other and get that kind of unfair advantage by missing out on some of the landslides that they had and the pitfalls. Yeah. So I just don't want anyone going into entrepreneurship with starry eyes. That's silly. But if you're sitting back there going, I don't know about making the leap, that's a dangerous place to be. Leap and become educated.
I think you're right there. There's a lot of people that will. I mean, the granddad story really resonates, doesn't it? Because so many people have been thinking about it for so long and they're not pulling the trigger. And part of that is they're worried about the consequences.
Yeah.
And that's fear. Influences a lot of our decision making.
There's a beautiful line that came out of probably the biggest man movie in the planet, Point Break. And in this movie...
the Keanu one.
Yeah. Patrick Swayze turns around to Keanu and says that fear causes hesitation, and hesitation will cause your worst fears to come true. And it's accurate.
Yeah.
The danger is not in trying, it's in standing still.
So much so. Yeah, that's awesome. So guys, if you're in that position where you're thinking of pulling the trigger, there's lots of ways of testing whether that entrepreneurial itch is the real thing, or whether you are better off. Because some people are better off being employees.
It's not easy,
because it's the second hardest thing you will ever do running a business. The first hardest thing is, as you and I both know, raising kids.
Raising kids, yeah. You can't give them back.
Yeah. Well, I hope that's given people a little bit of inspiration. Steve, anything you want to plug to my audience?
No, I don't want to plug anything, but I do want you to find a group, find a podcast, find a Facebook group, whatever that resonates with you, and ask questions. So for you guys out there wondering, should I, shan't I? Stop that conversation and start asking questions in a group. And let's be serious, everything happens when you're in the right room. So find the room that works for you.
And I can attest to that, having recently joined Steve's mastermind group, which is awesome. And I think getting in a group of entrepreneurs where you've all got like-minded values, you're all looking for success, it just opens up your thinking. You've got to be in that right room.
It does. When you're in the wrong room, you suddenly find out that you've been thinking too small. Yeah. And then when you get in the right room, you're like, whoa, why am I shortchanging? So, get in the right room.
One of my favourite sayings is the one, I think it might have been some old coach that said, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So spend time with people that you're aspiring to be like. That's the
thing.
Steve, thank you. It's been a pleasure.
See you later, pal.
Thanks for listening, guys.